Okay, let's do a word matrix for the word help. You can do this with a first grade class. And I want to just kind of start by saying I do explicitly teach suffixes, and I think that's really important. But also, when I'm doing a word matrix, I can still use suffixes I have not explicitly taught, and that's okay for these word matrices. I always do that, sorry, because likely those words are in their oral language. When I explicitly teach it, that's when I really dive deep, and we're going to think of lots of words with those suffixes. But right now, if I'm looking at a base word like help, and I'm really wanting to show my students all the words with that base word, I can still be using suffixes they haven't used before. I'm not assessing them on it. I'm not expecting them to spell it perfectly every time. But I think at this point, then when I do teach it, they've seen it in a bunch of different word matrices. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to start with the word help. We're going to talk about what does it mean to help. And students are going to give you, their definitions. And then I'm going to ask them, well, what's a word with the word help in it? And if you need to guide them more, they know at this point, they've learned the suffix S at this point. They've learned the suffix ed and ing. So they likely will come up with some of those on their own. So let's say you could even guide them with this sentence. So my student help me file some papers. Helps. Help would make more sense. It's not just help. So helps. We can do suffix S. We've learned that one. So this one's on the most basic level. We can take HELP, that's our base word, plus suffix S is rewritten as HELPS, helps. I'm going to point out here's my base, there's my suffix. Okay, so what if it already happened? What if someone helped me in the past? ED, helped. And I'm going to ask my students to use that word in a sentence with the ED. Now, we don't need to prove these because we've learned these suffixes already. We know they're real. So this is kind of like we're warming up and finding all the different words that we can make with the base word help. So HELP plus ED is rewritten as HELP ED. Okay. So maybe I'll do ing too. Right now I am helping. I'm not going to write that one for time's sake. But now I want to get into one. They likely will come up with the word helper. So when a person is helping me in the classroom, what can I call them? They're a helper. So that is a suffix we have not learned yet. Let's prove it. So that is suffix helper, ER. Let's prove it. Are there some other words we can think of with ER where it's a person who? So you're going to brainstorm some words to prove that ER is in fact a suffix, and you're going to let them know. You are going to learn a lot about the suffix ER later, but yes, it can be a person who helps is a helper. If you play on a basketball team, you are a basketball player. I teach. I'm a person who teaches, so I am a teacher. So that is a proven suffix. Now, the good thing about the word help, doing this early on, is there's no changes. There's not the dropping rule, there's not the Y changing rule, and there's not the doubling rule because we have two consonants after our vowel. So it's kind of nice because you can do it early on. So HELP plus ER is rewritten as HELPER, helper. And again, I like to have them underline your base word, circle your suffix. And students are writing this on their whiteboards too. You could do a couple where you just like model and you want to show them, but it's great to have them interacting and doing it also. So we have helper. Well, if I have more than one helper, what do I have? I have helpers. What suffix do I need to add on to helper? What suffix do I need? You need the suffix S. Well, why can't I use that one? Well, I want to make sure when you read a word matrix, you're reading it from left to right. And this just says helps. So I want to be able to go helpers. That's something I didn't understand when I first started doing these, and I was doing them wrong. So I really want to point that out. So we have HELP plus ER plus S is rewritten as HELPERS. Now, what's so cool about this is helpers, That's a big word with lots of letters. But if we point out that it is just help plus suffix er plus s, it's a little bit easier to spell. So what if you are someone who is really good at helping? I might say, wow, you are so, and hopefully they'll say helpful. So FUL is also going to be potentially a new suffix, means you're full of help. You're helpful. Let's prove that suffix. Let's think of some other words that have the suffix FUL in them. I'm also going to point out how the word full has two L's, but not the suffix full, because this is a suffix. This is not a word by itself. It is a suffix. It needs to be tacked on to a base word. So helpful. When someone is full of help, they are helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. What about the opposite of that? If you're not helpful, you can, and they might say, oh, well, that you're unhelpful. Okay, that's one way to do it. Unhelpful. So now we have this prefix, and this means, let's prove this one. Like means that you're not. So you can put that in front of a lot of base words, and it means the opposite of something. So, or to not do something. So unhelpful, I am not helpful. And you might ask them for other words they can think of with un before it. So let me think. Off the top of my head, it's always so hard. Like if you're unlucky, you're not lucky. I just did a luck video, so that one's in my head. If you undo something, or if you untie your shoes, that's a little bit different because those ones are verbs, but anything with un where it's not. Okay, so unhelpful. And then I could also say helpless. You might feel helpless. Like that's a little bit different than being unhelpful, right? Because you're not helpful. But if you feel helpless, it's similar. But when I think of helpless, I think of like, oh, I need someone to help me. I'm helpless. I'm helpless. So we would use that in a sentence, and we would write that one. And now this might be, there's actually another column you can do here. These are likely words that they've heard before, but you're going to need to maybe point them out. Helpfully, L-Y. And like she helpfully tidied up the classroom for me. Helpfully, it's just a different part of speech. I like it though because it's showing you the two L's, like I said in another video. So when you rewrite it here, you're going to do H-E-L-P plus F-U-L plus L-Y is rewritten as, and then you have all of it in it. I always point out that's why there's two L's, because you need both of those suffixes. And then ness. Now this one really matches with hope, which I have another video of that I do later. Hope and help have a lot of similarities. So you'll see this again, where when you're reading it from left to right, you can say helplessly, helpfully, helpfulness, helplessness. So you can, that's why I have these kind of together blocked out with these. So I hope this was helpful. Hope it was helpful. And yeah, it's a lot more fun when you're doing it with students, and it's a great whole class activity. And, you know, I'm an interventionist, so I usually have a small group, but I just think, oh man, if I had like a whole group to do this with, it would be so fun because you would just get that many more voices and that many more students with like their own ideas. I just also want to say, if they come up with a word that isn't a real word, you can try to help them, lead them along with that. Like, can we all think of a sentence with that? Okay, so we can't think of a sentence. It makes sense to me that you think that's a word because, you know, like I want to make the word rememberful a real word because I use the word rememberful all the time. It's not, I don't think it's really a word. So you can kind of gently lead them that way, but that's actually pretty fun to when they come up with different words, even if they're not real words, because they're still using those suffixes and prefixes, and you can still kind of say, yeah, like when I use the word rememberful, I'm always like, you know, because I don't like to say that I'm forgetful. So to say that I'm not rememberful just sounds better to me. Or this person is rememberful. They seem to remember everything. So anyway, I kind of joke about that and how I wish that was a word. I'm going to laugh if one of you is like, it is a word. I don't actually think it's a word, but it really should be. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that.